Hello everyone and welcome back to Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, where our mentor is in a little bit of hot water, but let's see if we can end this thing now.
Court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Christoph Gavin, will you please take the stand? Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor. Will the witness state his name and occupation?
As far as necessary, Your Honor.
Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom.
That's true, we've been there.
Fine, I'll play along.
First, there's one thing we need to have made clear. How did you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat?
By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith was bald.
Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate amount of interest in it.
That Phoenix. Yep. Oh, now he's with us. I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin. Ooh, here we go. Mr. Wright.
What do you think you're doing, Wright?
Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off except for that one time. That one time being the instant he was hit.
Oh!
When Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime, the hat was laying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to be at the scene of the crime, at the time of the crime.
In other words, you'd have to be the real killer. Is that what you're trying to say?
Not bad, Apollo. Uh-oh.
Mr. Gavin?
I'm afraid I haven't been entirely honest with the court.
What?
Oh, I assure you I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. And I'm afraid in the current situation I see little reason to hide anything. Very well, allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night.
Sorry, everyone. The battery was dying. One of the fun things about using a handheld is you have to worry about that.
So finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night?
The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I went down to the basement and peeked in through the little window to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead as he appears in the photo. A bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that it was not the best place for me to be at the time, and so I left. That's when the call came from Wright.
No. So, you witnessed the murder?
For better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed.
Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team? Your testimony is clearly disadvantageous to your client.
Whoops.
What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness stand after all.
So you are, Mr. Gavin. And you had to testify as you just did. You had to tell him you saw the scene of the crime through that little window. Mr. Wright? You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo?
Oh. Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant.
That's amazing.
Mr. Justice, are you prepared?
I don't know what's going on, Your Honor. Sure, let's take a crack at it. I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. This trial is getting weirder and weirder. Hey. That man, you mean Mr. Smith?
He was different from the other customers, his aura, shall we say. I knew he was a serious poker player, but it was more than that.
So then you knew the true nature of your client's job?
Of course, but I also knew he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal.
Well, it makes sense that he'd know. They were friends after all.
Worried for my friend, I returned to the club. You see, I feared this Mr. Smith might be someone coming to settle an old score.
That's weird.
I see. What happened then?
A little window. You mean the one used to keep watch up the stairs?
Yes, a relic of the ancient past. The Black Marketeers used it, I believe.
Why'd you go through the trouble of peeking in through the window? Wouldn't it have been easier to just open the door and go into the room?
I didn't want to upset Wright, you see.
Upset Mr. Wright?
Yes, what if my fears had been unfounded? I'd be walking in on their match. Bad form, to say the least.
So far everything he's saying makes sense. Not really. I mean, it's believable, I guess. Even if it's not at all believable. How do you know it was right after the murder?
Really, no need to shout, Justice.
Ugh.
I was just getting to that part in my testimony.
Ah, there he is, the coolest defense in the West we know and love. Even when you're standing up there on the witness stand, some things never change.
I was afraid you'd change too, Wright, but you haven't. You and that overbearing personality of yours.
Friends like these, who needs enemies? By photo, you mean the second photograph of the crime scene?
Precisely. You see, he wasn't wearing this hat then. I saw his head when he was dead.
And then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat. Can you describe the scene of the crime for us? And not that it matters. Those were the only three at the scene of the crime?
Yes, as far as I saw at least.
Then we're back where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police?
2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Mr. Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend.
There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime.
Justice, I just said I saw no one, not a soul.
But that goes against what Mr. Wright said.
Oh yes, this mysterious fourth person. Who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose.
Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin.
Let me pose a question then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap the cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you can show us the reason why such a thing would be necessary?
How can I show something I can't find myself? Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was the 5th ace. 5th ace, right.
Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out the card has been raised. Can you point to a reason?
What do I have? Oh, we got... Okay, never mind. It's now or never. The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out.
Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take the 5th ace?
Because it had blood on it. Right? Can I check this? Can I zoom? I'm sure that's blood, right? A single drop of blood marks the front of the card. Yep. Okay. So far, I'm buying this. My reason is this. Uh-oh. Is that an ace?
Ew, why has it got blood on it? Right next to the spade.
What?
Aha! This is insane. Why wasn't I told about this? Why?
Could this be the missing 5th ace?
Inconceivable. How could you?
Aha!
What are you doing with that card?
Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a fishy card from some fishy girl. Oh, that card, it's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Borscht Bowl Club that night after the murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock in trade, after all.
No, impossible, unacceptable. The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud.
A fraud? How can you be so sure?
What?
I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene, the real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason? The reason for the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime.
Where are you going with this?
Take another look at the photo and at the victim's head. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down to the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of that blood have fallen on one of the cards? I suppose. The killer then took the card to hide the blood.
Regardless, that evidence is non-permissible.
Oh?
Right, regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence.
Oh? We can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question.
What are you talking about?
You wanted to know why the killer would have taken a card from the crime scene. And now, I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see.
This is baseless conjecture, baseless.
Oh, I assure you it's quite based. Ha!
What?
Well, it's amazing, really. How a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo? What? Yes? Am I back? I'm getting tapped back in now. Try to picture the scene of the crime in your head. Okay. This is kind of neat looking. The murder took place in the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table, and before the killer swapped a card out, there's a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there's one decisive problem with this scene.
Well, what is it?
Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given there was a drop of blood on the card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, the second witnesses. Whose position doesn't fit the bloody card? I feel like it's the victim because the card would have been on the table, right? I don't think the second witness is where they claim they were, but based on what people have said, I think we have to accept that they could be there. The witness would have been the one to swap the cards. So yeah, I feel like it has to be the victim because I was trying to, I'm like, how did blood get on the card if the card is on the table and they're like leaned back, right? Gonna, oh, present. Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem?
I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice.
Well, look at the the victim is struck on the head, sending him back in his chair. You'd think any blood would fall behind the body, not onto the table in front of him.
Ah!
Take a look at the photo again. If he bled in this position, the blood would fall on the floor, not on the cards.
Oh, that's right. So, what does this mean?
Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs. Aha! Okay. Swivel chairs. Oh man. Apollo, try turning the chair around. Wait, what? What? Recreate the crime scene? Try and turn the chair. Oh, that's neat.
The chair was facing the other way.
You would have to be. I like that this is a little bit more involved. I'm hoping it doesn't get too complex because that can get kind of finicky. The victim's chair was facing away from the table.
When Mr. Wright returned from informing the police, which way was the chair facing?
When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo. That would mean the killer turned the chair back around. Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know now the victim was facing away from the table at the time of the murder. But this creates another significant contradiction. Again? Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location on the diagram contradicts our new understanding of the crime? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, the second witnesses. Be the... I feel like in this scenario, no one's positioning makes sense. If the victim is facing away, well, because he was hitting the front of the head, so the killer's is contradicted. Like, the way I was originally thinking about this in my head, I was like, well, the witness couldn't have done it because the witness, she's still behind him, but the killer's is the one that is contradicted. So I'm gonna go with that. The victim was struck from the front, correct? Indeed. Well, wouldn't it be hard for the killer to hit him from the front? Sitting where his indicator currently is? I would think it'd be quite hard, yes. Yes, but what you're saying makes no sense. Why would the victim suddenly turn to face the wall in the middle of a game? I believe a sufficient reason will come to light. What? There's something in this diagram that makes far less sense, actually. Look again at the diagram. What? Apollo, if the victim was struck while he was sitting as shown here, where would his assailant be standing? Try marking it on the diagram. What? But there's no room to put a mark where the killer should be. Don't worry, let's think it through and see what we find. We know the victim was facing forward toward the wall at the time of the crime. It's the only thing we know for sure. Try to forget about everything else. Where would the killer have to be standing to strike our victim from the front? What? Like, in order to do it, it would have to be, like, here-ish. Or, like, off to the side here? What even... Ah, I wish I could go back to the court record. I'm like, what even is this? But, I mean... Yeah, if we're gonna ignore everything else at that point, that's where it has to be. It makes... Well, I take that back. It could make sense if we knew what that was. But I don't remember if it was in the photograph, and I definitely don't know what it is. The killer had to be standing, well, here. You get points for flair, but that's about all you get. Ugh. Thought I was onto something here, too. I really need to point out that standing there would be impossible. The victim is facing a solid cup. Oh. No, or are you claiming the killer climbed the cupboard and hit him from above? Ha! He was in the cupboard, you dummy. It's simple logic, really. If this was the only place the killer could have been, standing, and that means that at the very moment of the crime... Wait, I know! At the moment of the crime, the cupboard... wasn't there.
Ew, what's this now?
I mean, that's the only explanation, right, Mr. Gavin? Wait. Your Honor, I have a suggestion for the defense. We should arrange to examine the cupboard in the hideout immediately.
Yeah, let's send a team to the crime scene immediately. Have them try to move the cupboard.
Ah, Your Honor.
What?
There's one more thing your men should look for. Please give this to the bailiff.
Yes, I see. You do belong in the courtroom after all, Mr. Wright.
I do my best. What was that? Let's forge ahead here while we wait. Look at the diagram once again, it's been changed. If the killer was standing here at the time of the crime, then this cupboard wasn't here, which means... Apollo, try moving the cupboard. Wait, what? Oh, it just does it for you. Okay. Thank you. Oh, I'm concerned this could get to be a little much. As you can see, the cupboard was the problem. At the time of the murder, it has to have been shown as shown here. Now everything is in place to reconstruct the moment of the crime. Oh my. What's this?
What is it now?
Look at the diagram of the crime scene once more. It appears we found yet another contradiction. What I believe to be the final contradiction, in fact. Huh? Oh, dang! Notice something, Apollo? Our line of deduction is rapidly approaching its logical conclusion.
Now then, Mr. Justice, please point to the new contradicting indicator. Is it the victim, the killer, the witness, the second witness?
Oh, it's definitely the... Definitely the second witness, because the window's covered. That's gotta be. About this cupboard. Are we okay with assuming it was moved? Sure, why not? Well, if it was, something really doesn't fit. The cupboard would completely cover up the window to the stairs. Ah! That's right, someone standing outside wouldn't be able to see in. Someone like Mr. Gavin.
What? What did you say?
Oh, is the coolest defense in the West losing his cool?
You don't expect me to play along with your little game, right?
It's only a game until someone gets killed, Mr. Gavin. And someone was, while the window to that room was blocked by a cupboard. So, Mr. Gavin, perhaps you'd like to explain to the court exactly where did you witness the crime scene from?
Excuse me, Your Honor. Order! This is a court of law, and I will have order. We just now received word from our investigative team at the Borscht Bowl Club. They've examined the cupboard in the hideout, Your Honor. Oh, and what did they find? Well, Your Honor, it turns out there's a secret passage behind... What? What?
Ah, yes, I believe I mentioned something of the sort before. This is one of the tricks to the room many of our regulars know about. I do remember him saying something about that now that he mentions it. A secret passage is a handy thing to have when you're engaged in illegal going-ons. You never know when you might need to duck away from the eyes of the law. So the room is a secret passage. Where does it go? The other side connects to the restaurant above. The underworld bosses could get away from the cops and enjoy a cold bowl of borscht, no doubt. Just like our killer. You see where our line of simple deductive reasoning has led us, Apollo? I see it, but I don't believe it. That girl wasn't kidding when she said I needed this trump card for the last hand. Time of the murder, the window was blocked and the victim's hat was only off his head for the few minutes between Mr. Smith's murder and Mr. Wright's return from calling the cops. In other words, the only place anyone could have seen the victim's bald head was from inside the hideout. Oh, Mr. Gavin, come on, say something.
Dare I ask what really happened that night?
Actually, I think we can probably figure it out for ourselves at this point. That night, for whatever reason, our killer had a date with Mr. Smith, a date with destiny. There he crouched, hidden in the secret passageway behind the cupboard, holding his breath, waiting for just the right moment. Then the chance came and he took it. Ugh. Why did you do that? Wait here, I'll get help. Miss Olga Orley was out cold, struck by Mr. Smith. But his time was soon to come. Mr. Wright went upstairs to call the cops, leaving Mr. Shady Smith alone in the hideout with the unconscious dealer. Then our killer stepped out from the secret passage and into the hideout. The victim must have heard the cupboard sliding aside. And he wheeled his chair around to look, and after the deed was done, the criminal must have seen the blood on the card. He would have, of course, realized the need to destroy the evidence. That single spot of blood told the whole story of the crime. Too bad for him he didn't linger any longer in the hideout that night. If he had, he might have noticed the cards on the floor, and the fact that they were all red. I feel like there's still some things we haven't quite wrapped up, but I feel like we've also very much proven that it was Gavin.
Well, it seems this trial has taken yet another turn. I'm truly sorry I had to see this day come, Mr. Gavin.
Mr. Gavin?
Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor.
The prosecution will continue its investigation. As for Mr. Phoenix Wright, the defendant, he is hereby cleared of all suspicion.
Is he gonna lose his hair again?
Believe me when I say that I don't believe this is happening, Mr. Gavin. But I'm afraid circumstances call for me to issue a warrant for your arrest immediately.
Wait, what?
No need to apologize. I rather enjoyed myself. It's not every day you get to witness a legendary attorney's dirty tactics firsthand.
Your point, Mr. Gavin.
Frankly, Your Honor, I'm shocked that a person of your caliber would be taken by such a low-grade parlor trick.
Excuse me.
The defendant is cleared of all suspicion. This is hardly the time for jokes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright hasn't proven anyone's guilt or innocence here. What he's done is use illegal evidence to put the blame on someone else. Not just anyone else, but me, his own defense attorney.
Illegal evidence?
Let me ask you, Mr. Gavin, is there still any reason at present to suspect me of wrongdoing?
Of course, this bottle, for instance.
Bottle of grape juice Mr. Wright was drinking.
How did you intend to explain away the fingerprints on the murder weapon? And not just any fingerprints. Am I right, Mr. Payne?
Actually, yes. The fingerprints on the bottle were upside down. I seem to recall this being an issue earlier.
The court in this case demanded an explanation. I can think of only one reason why one would hold the bottle upside down, and that is to hit someone with the bottom of the bottle. Well, Your Honor.
See how the caught fish squirms to the last? Well, Apollo? Yes? Your boss seems awfully concerned about this bottle still, but I'm sure you can come up with a suitable explanation, just like that. Yeah, just like what? Why would anyone grab a bottle upside down other than to... Don't let him trick you into thinking his explanation is the only legitimate one. Is there really another? Take another look at the court record. I believe you'll find a simple answer there, in plain sight. How about you just say the answer in plain words?
It would be easy to deliver a verdict with unanswered questions, indeed. Well, Mr. Justice...
Mr. Gavin said that the court and this case demand an explanation. Don't worry, justice won't leave until justice is done.
Perhaps the defense would care to enlighten the court. What evidence do you have to explain why the fingerprints on the bottle are upside down?
What evidence do we have to explain why the fingerprints on the bottle are upside down? Alright, hold on. Not the attorney's badge, I can tell you that. Sub-basement. Okay, take a look at this. No. Yeah, I don't think that has nothing to do with fingerprints. Can I check his phone? Oh, wait, what is this? Oh, the batteries are held in with a piece of tape. You should just buy a new one. Maybe he can't afford it, or he just doesn't care. Oh, that didn't help. Rats. Oh, wait. Oh, I was onto something earlier. I didn't mean to be. Because he would have picked it up out of the... Right? Like, he would have picked it up out of the crate like that. Let's just make sure. Chip photo, that's not going to help. Victim's hand, bloody ace. Check. No. I think that's it. I think... Oop. I wanted to look at... it's actually easier to show you than explain, Your Honor. I'm hoping... next time, if there's more testimony, then we'll call it an episode. But otherwise, we're going to keep going. Place the bottle on the floor next to your chair.
I was right. Oh, excuse me, on the floor?
Yes, now reach down and pick it up. Without getting out of your chair. Ah. See, you naturally go to pick up the bottle by its neck. With your fingers upside down. Look at this photograph taken on the night of the murder. The defendant, Mr. Wright, sat here, playing piano, bottles of grape juice on the floor to the side of his piano bench. I was right! We weren't ready for that yet. He would have naturally picked up the bottles upside down several times.
Oh, wow, I can't believe it was that simple.
Recall our dinner that night, Christoph. I was drinking my usual juice then, too. Basically, you used the bottle on the table to do the deed, but then you must have remembered. So you went and picked up one of the bottles from under the piano, and you switched the bottles. You took one of Wright's bottles and made it look like the murder weapon.
Order, order, order. What do you have to say to these charges, Mr. Gavin?
What else have you got?
Fascinating. So this is the legendary attorney's famed tactic of misdirection.
What?
You claim that I switched the bottle. Where's your proof?
Proof? Well, that's...
As I thought, more baseless conjecture. I'm afraid your bottle of proof is quite empty.
I wouldn't be so sure about that, Your Honor. When you initiated the investigation of the hideout earlier, do you recall I requested an additional investigation?
Ah, yes, I have your memo about that here. Retrieve the bottles from under the piano at the Borscht Bowl Club. And here's one bottle of the bottles in question.
What are you going to dust that for fingerprints too? You'd be surprised if anyone on that but his.
Mr. Gavin probably wouldn't have made such a novice mistake. True, that bottle won't bear a trace of anything. Wait, can I see it? Say, Apollo. Yes? Why don't you go ahead and examine that bottle? But why? Just humor me. Mr. Wright, that bottle will solve this case once and for all. What? It's some bottle. I know. Yep, there it is. Yeah, it makes more sense that it would be the Five of Hearts. I was wondering why we were looking for this ace. There's something inside the bottle. What's this?
That card, it can't be.
Recall that unpleasant woman's testimony for a moment. Miss Olga Orley? Yes, our little swindling Devachka. Planted card like I was supposed to, and Wright lost the hand just like he was supposed to. Smith searched him, but the planted card was gone. The trap failed. Wait, this isn't... You're telling me that this is the planted card you disposed of? The one you mentioned in this piece of testimony. Found a card. Yeah, right. It would have been the Five of Hearts. Feeling something might happen, so I disposed of the card before the game. There's an empty bottle of grape juice I had been drinking right beside me. I threw the card inside the bottle. The Five of Hearts. this is the card. The bottles were swapped, and the only one who could have done that was the fourth person in the club that night. You, Christoph Gavin. He's gonna lose it. Here it goes. What? What was that? Shane's like, I'm gonna lose another case again. That's all.
This is your idea of revenge, Phoenix, right?
Revenge?
Revenge for the events that took away your attorney's badge 7 years ago.
My past is like my logic, straight and true. Nothing's changed. All I did was point the finger of justice in the proper direction.
Fine. I'm glad we can have this little tete-a-tete, right?
This is insane. What about me? Don't I get to prosecute anyone? No, go away.
I believe this time we finally come to the end of our trial. Mr. Bain, do you have a report for us on Christoph Gavin?
He's admitted everything. We're processing his arrest now. That was oddly less satisfying than I thought it would be.
I see. Still, one has to wonder why he would do such a thing. He didn't even have a connection to the victim, did he?
None that we know of.
Mr. Wright, do you have anything to add?
I'm afraid I can't shed any more light on the matter.
About this victim, Mr. Shady Smith, his occupation was listed as traveler. Odd profession to be sure, and that's all we know about him.
I'll arrange a follow-up investigation, Your Honor.
Good. Mr. Wright?
Yes.
7 years and you still haven't lost your touch.
Christoph Gavin was a man with much significance for me, both as a friend and a lawyer.
He was extremely talented, to be sure.
I needed two things before I could confront him. The first was a place where no injustice would be tolerated, this courtroom. The second was a man who would tolerate no injustice. In other words, a defense attorney. You, Apollo.
Me?
The dark time is coming for our legal system. What? What is this crazy, like, dark times prophecy thing happening here? What?
What do you know?
Is he gonna be our Mr. Miyagi? A twisting of justice brought on by our very own court system. We have to set it right. Mr. Wright! Our work lies ahead of us, and I, for one, am looking forward to it.
Well, it seems like this is a good time to announce a verdict. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Phoenix Wright.
Not guilty!
Court is adjourned.
Alright, so we did wrap it up. Okay, sorry this is a long episode, but wasn't really a good break point in here. Thanks, Apollo. You came through just like I thought you would. I'm pretty sure I didn't do a thing in there. It was you who cornered Mr. The killer. I couldn't have done it by myself. You sensed it too today, didn't you? Your ability. Ability? Yes, the sensitivity I lack. You'll come to understand it soon. I like that they try to explain canonically, like, why Apollo can do, like, why there are new mechanics. Like, oh, Apollo just has this ability. That's kind of neat. Even if it makes no sense. Wait, I wonder if he means... You saw the moment of the defendant. Yep. Yep, we sure did see this already. I'm curious to see how they're going to use that going forward. What was that, Mr. Wright? You'll have to find the answer to that question yourself. The answer? Right. Today was full of questions without answers, most of them about Mr. Gavin. What possible reason could he have had to commit murder? Perhaps you'll learn that in the days to come. Huh? Wait, you don't know, do you? This locket is the key. Huh? Oh, that reminds me. I met the girl whose picture is in your locket. Your daughter, right? She seemed way too old to be his daughter. Explain. That's right, she's my daughter. You know, you were right about this locket. Eh? I took this off his neck the night he died. but it looks like our dear Russian scam artist saw me. So the truth is, this locket really did belong to him. Wait, but that's perjury! You testified! You said the locket was yours! I said no such thing, actually. Huh? I merely said it was a locket with my daughter's picture inside. A subtle distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. And it's the truth. Wait, but then why? Why was the victim wearing a locket with a picture of your daughter inside of it? Sometimes the straightest path to the truth isn't the best one. Give it time. I have so many questions. You're still just getting started with your career. Speaking of which, I may be out of a job. I work for Gavin Law Offices after all. I still can't believe I just saw Mr. Gavin get led away in handcuffs. Apollo. Yes? How about coming to work for me? Huh? You mean at the Wright & Co. Law Offices? I mean, there's not a single attorney in my generation that doesn't know it. I can't imagine that to be true, but... Wait, but you're not a... Oh, I turned in my badge. Yes, I'm not an attorney anymore. That incident 7 years ago. That legendary trial. What? And at the middle of it all was one man. Phoenix Wright. What? I need to know. The case reached its sad conclusion, and he left the law for good. Oh, I wonder if it had to do with Gavin. Have you ever thought about coming back to the courts? I'm not qualified to stand in a court of law, I'm afraid. Didn't you notice in today's trial? There's a single piece of forged evidence. Forged evidence? What are you talking about? I'm talking about evidence that shouldn't have existed. A naughty magician's trick. Oh, one piece of evidence struck me as odd. It's true. It just seemed, well, too perfect. I'll bet this was the yeah, I bet it was the card, wasn't it? That made no sense. You mean this, don't you? I got this from your daughter, Mr. Wright. Oh my god. Stop. Back. Yes, that card couldn't have been found at the crime scene. Why? Because the killer took it with him when he left, leaving the wrong card in its place, luckily for us. Bert can't accept this as evidence. It's a fraud. A fraud? How can you be so sure? I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene, the real killer. My verdict was already handed down 7 years ago. Then you really... Yes, I forged this card. One look at the crime scene should have told you it wasn't real. But you can't do something like that and call yourself an attorney. That's why he's not an attorney, you dingus. Who's calling themselves an attorney, Apollo? So it's true. The rumor is true. 7 years ago. None of that matters much now, does it? Alright, can we just, let's go. I punched him. Well, we're not gonna be working for him. Do we get unemployment twice for that? Right? Because we got fired from Gavin and now we already got fired from him, so you get doubles how that works. Your story from here on out, Apollo. Perhaps I can help you turn the next page. My office is addressed. Drop in if you like. Oh, good. We didn't get fired yet. Mr. Wright. Oh, about your uppercut. Try yelling. Take that next time. I find it packs a little more punch. And Apollo, thanks for today. I had a good time. What? You're insane. You're insane, old man. All of 30... What, 33? 34? And with that, Mr. Wright walked out the door. And that's how my first trial ended. A lot of mysteries went unsolved, and at the time, I had no idea they were all I knew it! Every mystery that day, connected by a single thread of logic. I'd find out soon enough. My name is Apollo Justice, attorney at law, and this is how my story begins. Alright, that was pretty good. I'm a little surprised that they went straight into Turnabout Corner. I'm a little surprised that they went straight for like incorporating Phoenix right away. I had a feeling he'd make an appearance. I didn't think he would be like it seems like he's going to be a very present figure in this, which I was not quite expecting. It makes sense. Kind of like break you into the idea of a new attorney. Smart. Overall, I enjoyed it. I'm a little concerned about some of these mechanics. I'm hoping that they aren't too, I don't want to say like tedious or repetitive or just like finicky is probably like the best word I can come up with. Just like having to be very specific. So I remember there were a couple times in the Ace Attorney in the Phoenix Wright trilogy having to be a little bit more particular than it seemed like I should have to be. So I'm a little concerned about that, but we'll give it a chance. One way or another, we'll get through it all. So I hope you guys are enjoying this and looking forward to the next case. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.